All right, let's get right into it. Because what we're about to unpack, well, it pretty much flips the script on everything you probably think you know about global power.
You know, most of us see the world stage as this big, epic clash of ideas, right? It's democracy versus autocracy, West versus East. That's the story we're always told.
But what if that's not the real story? What if it's just the cover story?
Because when you boil it all down, when you strip away all the noise, geopolitics is really about three things: who needs what, who controls the supply, and who gets stuck with the bill. And right now, yeah, Europe is paying.
Think back just a few years. Europe's position, it seemed totally solid, almost unshakable. The US was the reliable ally. China was the go-to trade partner. And globalization, that felt permanent, like a law of physics. Well, that world is gone. Today, Europe is trapped.
It's caught in what you can only describe as a pincer attack. I mean, it's getting squeezed by American economic pressure on one side and absolutely flooded by Chinese industrial goods on the other. And here's the really scary part. This wasn't some accident. This was by design.
And the warning shot? It was fired years ago, hidden in plain sight, right there in Trump's national security strategy. The message was brutal and it was crystal clear. But Europe, well, it seems they weren't listening. They just thought, hey, we're the West, we're on the same team, and that turned out to be a massive, costly mistake.
So how in the world did this happen? Let's actually break down the mechanics of this pincer attack, because you really have to understand both jaws of this trap to get what Europe is trying to do next.
Okay, so here's how the jaws of the pincers started to close. On one side, you've got the US basically using tariffs as a weapon to force a super favorable economic deal. Then, on the other side, well, when the US threw up that huge tariff wall against China, where do you think all those Chinese products went? The EVs, the batteries, the industrial goods? They didn't just vanish. Nope. They got rerouted and flooded into Europe, selling at prices that European companies just can't possibly compete with.
Let's focus on the American side of this for a second. Because what was negotiated here, it wasn't a trade deal in any normal sense of the word. It was a massive structural transfer of wealth.
I mean, just look at the terms of this quote-unquote deal. 0% tariffs for American goods coming into Europe. But European goods going to the US? Bam! A 15% tariff. And it gets even crazier. Europe was also pushed into investing $600 billion into American factories and had to promise to buy $750 billion worth of American oil and gas. Come on, that's not a trade agreement, that's a tribute.
And this is a perfect example of what economists are starting to call a tribute economy. It's way more than just tariffs. It's a whole system where one economy is basically forced to use its own money to fund another country's factories, lock itself into buying that country's energy at their prices, and then just soak up all the inflation that comes with it. The way it works is actually pretty simple, but it's devastating. Step 1, Europe's money builds American factories. Step 2, Europe gets locked into buying expensive American energy, so no more shopping around for a better deal. Step 3, Europe's economy has to eat the inflation. And the real kicker, Step 4, America controls the prices for the whole thing.
And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. The damage is real and it's happening right now. The auto sector is struggling. We've seen over 12,000 jobs disappear. People's real disposable income is down 4%, and foreign investment is totally collapsed. European companies aren't even expanding at home anymore. They're doing what's called tariff jumping, literally building their new factories inside America just to survive. Europe is being hollowed out.
So when you see all this, the obvious question is, why is Europe just taking this? Why not just block all the Chinese goods or turn to the US and say, no deal?
Well, the short answer is dependency. Europe is stuck in this kind of spider web. It needs China for all the critical components, the manufacturing parts, the rare earth minerals that literally keep its factories open, but it also relies on America for its security through NATO, for energy leverage, and for access to what's called dollar liquidity. That's the huge pool of US dollars you need for global trade. So if they push back too hard against either China or the US, the whole thing could collapse internally. It is the textbook definition of a strategic trap.
So, what's the escape hatch? This is where BRICS comes into the story. And let's be super clear about this. This isn't about Europe suddenly falling in love with a new ideology. No way. This is a cold, hard, calculated survival strategy. It's about buying an insurance policy.
And we are not talking about a small insurance policy here. The new expanded BRICS group now accounts for almost half the entire world's population. They control 40% of global oil and gas, and they have a stranglehold on most of the critical minerals that are going to power the next century. I mean, those are numbers you just cannot ignore. So for Europe, what does BRICS offer? It offers one crucial thing: leverage. It gives them other places to sell their stuff, new options for energy so they're not totally dependent on the US, and fresh sources of investment. But the really critical part is currency flexibility, things like currency swaps or settling trades in local currencies. It's a way to break free from what some are calling hostage economics, where you're totally chained to the US dollar, which just gets more and more expensive and painful when US interest rates go up.
And again, this isn't just a theory. This pivot is already underway, even if it's happening quietly. You've got France's President Macron talking openly about France being a bridge between the G7 and BRICS. You've got Germany trying to work on co-development with India, which, by the way, is set to chair BRICS in 2026. This isn't about making new friends, it's purely about strategic survival.
And all of this brings us to our final and maybe the most urgent point of all. There's a deadline on the horizon. 2026, it's not just another year. It is really shaping up to be the year when the new global order starts to lock in.
Here's the uncomfortable truth. The old world order is finished. We are moving into a much more fragmented, multipolar world. America isn't the only superpower anymore, and Europe is no longer the center of the universe. In this new game, it's simple. The ones who adapt first are the ones who survive.
So, the real issue here isn't whether Europe is going to join BRICS like it's some kind of club. The real question is, facing this brutal economic pincer attack, can it afford not to build some leverage with them? Is this quiet pivot by Europe happening way too late, or maybe just in the nick of time?